Well, welcome to Active Teaching Lab for September 22nd. Today we're going to be talking about lessons from spring. So we'll be talking and kind of really discussing today lessons that we learned in the transition from the digital learning last spring and what strategies then we're going to be doing this fall. One of the today I just wanted to talk a little bit about have us all talk together a little bit about some of the lessons that we were finding last semester, and so some of the and I put on the document underneath our collaborative aspects, some tips for course design in a pandemic. So I was just scouring the web I'm talking to friends and colleagues here at UW Milwaukee, UW Madison, Waukesha, Washington County as well, and just looking for ideas for things that we were finding. What were some of the lessons that we were learning last semester? What was really working well? And what were some of the things that we're really having lots of problems with? What were some of the students' perspectives on what were happening? What was really useful for them? What was really problematic for them? And so I came up with a list of 10 based on what we were conversations, and also 10's a round number, and based on some of those conversations. And I also got a nice list of really some great online resources for you as well, just to check out too. So today I wanted to really talk though, before we really kind of even looked at some of those top 10 or those 10 ideas and tips for course design in a pandemic. I really wanted to get your perspective and really work together to kind of talk through this amongst ourselves of what things were working well and what things were kind of falling flat. And to do that, today we're going to shake it up. We experimented last week with a breakout group, and parts of that worked really well, and parts of that worked less than well. And if you watch the video, you'll see. So today we're going to try that again. We're going to do some breakout discussions as well, talking about this topic, and we're also going to try something slightly different in terms of a whiteboard space. Instead of giving each group its own Google document, we're going to have you each collaboratively work on a Google slide. So I'm going to share this slide right now. I'll show you. So I'm going to switch this up just to kind of let you know what to expect. I share application screen, and Chrome tab, and there we go. So what we're going to do is break you all off into groups, and in Collaborate Ultra, your groups are named by numbers by default, right? So you're going to be in group 1 or group 2 or group 3 or group 4 or group 5, so they're all numbered. And then if you look, if you take a look, so if you go to the collaborative sheet, you'll see there's a link to a Google slide. I'm actually going to copy that link, and I am going to put that in chat. So there's the link to the collaborative group, and I'm going to answer Ed, yes, 4 people per group. So so we're going to divide you up into groups. Those groups are numbered, and you're going to see a Google slide with the appropriate number next to it. So just go into the Google slide, find the number that the group number that you're going to be put into by Ed, and go to that slide and start working together with your group. So you can all work on that collaboratively at the same time, and then talk using Collaborate Ultra, and then type using Google Slides. And I do ask that you pick a note taker. Nobody who has a group should have Legolas as their note taker, or the presenter should not be Gimli as well. I've been listening to lots of Lord of the Rings music lately. So so make sure you have a note taker and a designated note taker and designated presenter, and then everyone can feel free to type in, put comments in there as well. You can always add new rows. You can go underneath the slide. It doesn't have to be just constrained within the slide itself. It can just be, you can just keep going underneath that, because again, they aren't sharing this as a slide. We're sharing this using this as a collaborative document as well. So I'm going to have Ed break us out, because we learned from last week that if you have multiple people as moderators, only one should be designated to run it. So we're at Ed was designated as running our Google Slides, our breakout groups today. And so we're going to give you 15 minutes. There's one more to discuss the topics that are on the Google slide about what lessons we've learned. And so Ed's going to break us out. We'll give you 15 minutes, and we'll let you know what's going on. So Ed, go for it. You can break us all out. Thank you. Well, that was fun. I was in one of the rooms. I think a lot of people got kicked out by accident, or somehow with this is one of the other things that I keep on hearing about in Collaborate Ultra, that students sometimes when we do breakout groups, they get kicked out. And and now I've seen it where like we lost a bunch of people, like 3 or 4 people that just got kicked out at when we went to the blackout breakout group. So it's nice to see these errors as they occur. I guess nice is maybe not the right word, but hey, how was that? Um, how did that work for everyone? I'm really curious. How did the breakout discussion go? And what did you think about using Google Slides? Positives, negatives? Were you indifferent to using that as a whiteboard space? Anne was saying that it was a better transition than last week. Yes, because we didn't try to all work at the same time. So one moderator working, that was really helpful, I think. And Ed, can you tell us how you did the warnings? Bill, Ed,
all I did
ahead,
was chat to all. Sorry, I didn't realize my mic was unmuted. Glad I wasn't saying anything weird. So yeah, all it was a chat to everyone.
And I'll share my screen and I'll show you, Bill, because sometimes it's a little bit like, I sometimes always remember. Let's see, here we go, screen 2. So you'll see a little bit of screen and screen action going on. But what you do then is you go to, open up the Collaborate panel, chat. So when everyone's in breakout rooms, you can chat. You'll see different groups right here that you can chat to, Bill. But you just click on everyone, and then that will go to all the different chats, even as they're broken out. So that's just the way to do that, which things you to kind of figure out as you're going. Going back to group size. What else do we have in terms of comments? Transition was good, worked well. Is there much difference between using slides and Google? Thank you, Royce. I was really hoping somebody would ask that question. There are a lot of differences. One being that everybody can see everybody's work. And for us, that's kind of cool, right? So I'm going to leave these slides available on the Google Doc. I'm just going to stop the participation so there's no more adding anything. You can just see what we did this day. So everyone can see it, and that's really good when you have people who are intrinsically motivated to learn that material, right? So we're intrinsically motivated to kind of learn more about teaching and learn the content. The problem can arise, and this was one of the things that I know Kathy was talking about, that you can, if you have students you might get the phenomenon when you have a discussion board of, the person saying, one person saying, I like cows, and the next person saying, yes, I agree with you liking cows, I like cows too. But how do I stop participation of a Google slide? I'll get to that in a minute. 1 second. But the last thing about the other difference as well is that I think the slide is really good for focusing you on specific questions, whereas the document is going to be a lot better for kind of like an expanded, kind of a long discussion that goes on for multiple pages, whereas a slide is going to be more bullet points, smaller items. I think that was what Kathy was talking about. Kathy, did you want to add anything else about that?
Oh, just that for underclassmen, slides are fine, but either way is good, but I usually make them have their own separate link per group, because when I did slides where everyone could see everyone else's, and it was, freshmen, they all looked strangely the same. So they were kind of copying off each other, summarizing, and so that is why, that's when I use either separate docs or a separate slide presentation for people. But in a group like ours, we're collaborative and we want them to see. So, either way works, as long as you just understand that, you know your class. So if you want your class to collaborate or see the other group's work, and that's good, perfect. But if not, separate either slides or the doc.
Yeah. And it's another good questions as well, like will the text show up if it drops off the slide? It will show up when you're in this view that we are in right now, but when you were to quote unquote present, it wouldn't show. right now we're just using it as kind of an expandable document, and it can go on beyond the slide. But if you wanted to present it, it would have to all be on that one space. That was from Sarah. And yeah, if it's off, Kathy already answered it. Why do she's always on top of the ball. Any reason to go with Google Docs rather than Microsoft apps through SharePoint? And that was another question with, I saw Anne talking about sharing it, but you did it in Word doc. And the issue that I always run into is that the share permissions at UW Milwaukee are such that everyone has to log in. So I can't just give everyone a link and just let everyone who shows up with that link get into it. I have to give everyone specific permission. I can set it so that it's open to everyone, but I see that happening over and over again. Just that permission won't stick, and sometimes people will still have to log in, and you still can't edit it. And it just tends to work better for the type of environment that we're in an active teaching lab, where I don't always know who's going to show up or who's going to participate. And maybe you can do that with your students by just sharing a folder and giving them permission. Let's see. So that I think, yes, I think we all drank a little too much of the Google Kool-Aid here. Let's see. That was so. I really appreciate the feedback on that. I really enjoyed kind of trying to do something different. Kathy had done this before. I had seen this done some from friends in Madison as well, and so I wanted to try it out. And if you have any ideas for things that we could do together in Active Teaching Lab to kind of like a tool that we can use to facilitate the discussion, please let me know. You can put that in the Google Doc slide if you want as well, or whatever you want to do. I think it's always fun to experiment with new methodology here, and we can kind of break things and see if they work and see if they don't work. And always feel free to bring those up. Kathy or Ed, were there any burning questions about the method? Or I'm going to move on.
I just had one that a group brought up, and I just wanted to bring it to everyone. If you get kicked out, for instance, or if the power goes out in your building and your student loses anything and can't get back into a breakout room, tell them to use I always start presentations typically with get the Collaborate Ultra app. So down before our meeting, and if you get kicked out for any reason, or if your laptop, whatever, is not working, just jump into the class using the Canvas app, not Collaborate app, Canvas app. And I've had really good luck with that.
Easy. Awesome. It's like a backup. It's a backup version.
Yeah,
so cool.
Actually, I usually do a note right before, like the day before. Hey, I give them a Collaborate Ultra room to test it in, but then I'll also put a link to, it's recommended that you download the app here for Canvas in case things go wrong. So they know ahead of time, so I don't have to do tech support while I'm lecturing.
Awesome. And Sarah, you had some great questions. Can you put that in the Google Doc? Just so that we remember, then we'll get to it. I'll put that in there. Oops. Let's see. You didn't have the link. You got it? Okay, you got the link. Excellent. Okay. So thank you, Kathy. That was awesome, because those are things that I didn't know either. So I wanted to kind of get what those groups, I wanted to hear what the groups were talking about. And since Anne did a good job of signing in for Legolas, Anne, could you, or no, I think it's Nora, is the presenter for Group 1. What was the big takeaway? What was the big thing that you were talking about? So could you share that with us, Nora, what you were talking about in Group 1?
Yeah, can you hear me okay? You can hear me okay? Okay. So we had a unique group because only one of us, which was not myself, was actually actively teaching this semester with a very, very big class. So I'll kind of go with that because her input was pretty great, and so was also the other person in our group, Heidi, who's a librarian. So they had a lot of really great input. But I think the biggest thing for us was that the underlying feeling was offering the flexibility to the students and showing them that it's a somewhat of a normalized change that we're going through, but also on the other side, balancing that and making sure that the students still have boundaries. An example could have been a huge class and students maybe don't log in as much as they should, or to be responsible. And then when they do, you can tell that they kind of rush through that and quickly ask questions, and they're not getting the right amount of information. So being transparent with students on expectations, being firm, creating those boundaries, and keeping that flexibility. I'll go with that for now.
Thanks so much, Nora. That's great.
Sure.
Really, that flexibility. That was one of the things that when I was going through this week and looking was one of the big things that people were talking about. All our students were talking about all the time as well, and that it wasn't just a matter of helping students adjust, but it was it's also a little bit. It's also a matter of equity and accessibility for students as well. Students aren't necessarily going to have that option to like for a synchronous session. They may have competition with use of their online service at home. With everyone else at that time that you have a synchronous session going on. That means their bandwidth is horrible. And so giving them options like, hey, maybe we can record this session so that way if you can't get on or if you break off to have that session recorded, or maybe even having multiple sessions as well. So, if you have your lecture recorded beforehand, then they can watch it whenever they want. Also, maybe instead of having a full discussion, like an hour-long discussion, break it up into 2 half-hour discussions that are scattered throughout the week. So that way students who aren't able to make that first one, or they get cut off, or they get kicked out, they have that option for the second one as well, just to kind of give people a different opportunities. I thought that's one of the things that kept on getting brought up by students as well, giving flexibility. And you really, that was really great. Thank you so much. All right, group 2. Group 2, Bill and let's see, presenter was Gimli. I don't know presenter. I think Gimli. Do we have Gimli today, or somebody else from Group 2 could share what they're talking about?
Hey, Lane.
Yeah.
I'm just going to hop in because there's been a couple questions about audio and a couple of questions about links that wouldn't work for people. And unbeknownst to us, Blackboard Collaborate made an update about 2 weeks ago where the recordings in Blackboard Collaborate are no longer public, meaning that if you post the link to it, you have to make that public. If they access it through Blackboard Collaborate in the course, they can see it. But if you're posting links, it comes up as not usable. So I don't know if you want to show that to people real quick with the screen there, Lane, because it's a weird thing that all of a sudden they've switched it 2 weeks ago, and if you're into like I record it and then post it into a module, students are getting it's not working. I don't know.
Yeah,
I hate to throw you. Of course they didn't tell us. I hate to throw you a curveball, but maybe we can just look at that real quick too, because that seems to be cool. Thanks. I'm going to be quiet.
Yeah, absolutely. No, perfect, Ed. Thank you so much. Again, this is keep this open space. I mean, this is what we're working together here. So giving students the recording, and Ed, if I go off the rails, or Kathy, I go off the rails, let me know. Okay, so recordings. And let's look for, great, because we have no recordings. That's awesome. All right, so let's go to a different course. Because I switched courses. All right, let me see here. I know where there's one. I know where there's like a billion of them. All right, so here we go.
There you go. Perfect.
There you go. So I'm going into Collaborate Ultra for this course. And let it process. There's the menu. Also, I learned that the timer, there's actually a timer app in Collaborate Ultra that would time and time down. They turned it off. So, all right. So that was one of the things. They're like, hey, why do they have a timer in here? And like, oh, they had one, but they turned it off. And yes, Bill, I do go off the rails. All right. Okay, so here we go. Here we have a recording. I'm going to click on Options and Recording Settings and Allow Public Access. Save it. And there, that's it, right, Ed? That's the one that you click on that. Now you can copy the link. And then anyone who is using this, let me see if this, can you see my, okay, let me.
Yeah. So 2 weeks ago that changed, and I think anything like prior to beginning of September is defaulted to public, and then all of a sudden it's defaulted to private. So, I mean, we had a couple questions about that and a couple things in the, our support comments, and people like, my video is broken and it's not working anymore and I'm doing it just fine. Like, you're doing it just fine. Blackboard kind of screwed you on that one and didn't tell you that they changed it. So.
Right. So I turned that on and okay. And then I went to a private browser. So this is an incognito browser. So there's no like Canvas or Blackboard doesn't know it's me. And there we have it right there. So now it's working fine. I can see that I turned that on correctly, and now it's accessible to anyone who has that link. Excellent. And that's how I test everything as well. If I have a problem, I just go Collaborate Ultra. Or I go to incognito board. All right. Yes, check out the make public. So record settings and make sure it's allow public access. Hit the checkbox. Excellent. All right. Great interruption. Thank you very much, Ed. And let's go back to slides. All right. So group 2, could you, what were some of the big takeaways from your discussion? I want to make sure I get everyone a chance to talk.
Well, Lane, we spent quite a bit of time talking about how you often go off the rails, but that's a whole nother discussion. So we talked about the core thing was making the course as human as possible and person to person as possible. So we talked about using quick video announcements. Sonia mentioned that she's having some real problems with Kaltura video and whether or not they get loaded up into the into her My Media, and I think there's some issue of some tech issues, and I don't know if she's having a personal issue or just knowledge of the tech. And we talked about using office hours for specific purposes, and some students use Microsoft Teams, prefer that. I use Google Meet because it's really easy and for just individual meetings. And we talked about some students getting bounced off Collaborate Ultra as we did, and think students get really frustrated when that happens. And that part of the humanity thing is some students are really self-conscious about sharing their camera. And I don't know if there's a way in some platforms you can use the green screen background. I don't know if that's possible with Collaborate Ultra to have something other than like my dirty laundry right in back or my sink full of dishes. And we really talked about different ways that we can actually humanly connect, with pictures, posting, getting their pictures. We've got somebody that collects the photographs and then puts them asks the students to email the photographs and then puts them in a document, so they just connect the names and the faces. So that it's not just when you're online that you're like, oh yeah, that's who that student is. I get their face and forget their name. So that was the big part.
Awesome. Thank you. And because that's another one of those things as well that we were seeing from kind of national polls of students are really trying to make it a personalizing experience, having videos or having some sort of way to make it more human. And yes, the technology is always getting in the way. And you are right, that you can't do virtual backgrounds in Collaborate Ultra. In Teams, you absolutely can. I really like some of those backgrounds. One of the things you can do if you want to kind of hide it is they have little backgrounds that you can put behind your chair, and they're kind of their green screen background, or you could put something there. Or I've hung up curtains in my basement. I just kind of stapled some to the raft, the floor joist, and that was it. Don't know where to find Lord of the Rings backgrounds. Oh, they're on there. They are on there, Royce. And I have some. So you meet me in a Teams meeting, I'll be in Hobbiton. So yes, so there are options for you, but Collaborate Ultra is a little bit, it's an older tool that doesn't have some of the flash and bang whiz stuff that the other tools have. Thank you very much, Bill. Group 3, what do you got for us? Group 3.
Yep, coming. I just had to unmute myself. This is Sarah.
Awesome. Hi, Sarah.
So regarding the last term, I happened to be the member in our group who was teaching in the spring and needed to transition from a face-to-face class to a fully remote class. And what I found particularly key was my less is more pedagogical strategy. So like really hone in on what are the essentials in this course. What do I want students to focus on, and what are the things that we can let go while the world around us is imploding. And then related to that, using synchronous sessions sparingly and strategically. So recognizing that students can't spend as much time meeting in an online synchronous session as they can happily spend in a face-to-face classroom. So how to really take advantage of that time and use it well. And moving forward, as I think about the course this upcoming spring, I'm doing a lot of thinking about what content can be delivered asynchronously, so that the synchronous sessions, as I said, can be sparing but really, really strategic. And Royce is teaching now, and has been doing some great learning about giving lectures in synchronous sessions. You can see one of the things he talked about is using breakout sessions, giving students breaks from the lecture, changing things up, using the chat panel as a way for students to ask questions and engage during the lecture. He's figured out how to use his iPad to annotate slides, which sounds really great, and maybe someday I'll learn such things as well in my role as, among other things, a tech consultant. And then also, in light of this, we were talking about students' connection issues and the challenges there. And Kathy shared the really great tip with us that I think she's already shared in this main session about making sure students all have the Canvas mobile app on their phone and logging in through that if they get booted off the Collaborate Ultra session, trying to log in through their internet browser.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and everyone else in Group 3 as well for that great stuff. I'm going to have to probably get Royce in here to share with us the pen thing. I was wondering, Sarah, and maybe you just kind of, you're still thinking through this, but did you have any specific strategies that you went through to really pare down that course to the essentials?
Well, honestly, in my case, some of it was just enormously practical and probably unique to my course, because it's a course on facilitation, and we had planned for the second half of the semester, specifically late April, for students to be doing a community engagement project of facilitating circle dialogues in the community, and that simply wasn't going to happen. So I think the strategy that I would recommend is starting with what are the course learning outcomes, and in particular, if there are many of those, what are the really most essential things that I need to make sure that students can do by the end of this class, or that they know. So that tends to be my go-to strategy. Start with the learning outcomes. Where do I want students to land by the end of the term? And what is most important to help them get there?
Thank you, Sarah. And the rest, and Group 3 as well. Group 4, let's see. We got presenter Sarah. I think I actually signed her up for that. Sorry, Sarah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you did. Okay, so I don't want to repeat anything anybody else has said, but a couple things that we talked about. Teresa was talking about she used online office hours through Collaborate Ultra, but how do you get students to actually go to those? So we talked about some strategies of having students use a Google Doc or a OneDrive doc or Doodle poll and actually signing up for specific times. And that might be one way, through the course of the semester, they have to come in at least one time, and that might help encourage them to contact you and use office hours, and also give that personal touch that's talked about in the last session. And then The other thing that Lane and I talked about while we were dealing with connectivity issues with Teresa is the idea of if you're running a synchronous class, oftentimes students listen really passively. So finding ways to allow the students to actually interact by using text-based work. So be that shared documents or the chat, but also giving them time to think after you give a writing prompt, so that allows them to invite conversation and involve more students and more engaged in active learning. So I'll stop there because I know we're almost out of time.
Thank you, Sarah. No, and that was one of the things as well that I've been really, I'm really kind of convicted of, is that sometimes, I'm all about technology and stuff, but sometimes the lower tech stuff is better. Like, text-based conversations. That's just chat rooms from the 90s. And now we're all about, the video, the audio, what we can do to show and increase our presence. But sometimes in some situations, you just want to have a chance to think and just stop before you speak. And giving students an opportunity to really write out their ideas before they share them is sometimes it's better to use text for that, because that kind of lends itself to more thoughtful ideas and kind of thinking through things rather than just speaking before you fully framed out what you're going to say. And so sometimes audio and video can push us towards having the students who are extroverted and like to talk and talk fast. That can push them to the forefront of the class and keeping them being the only ones that are participating. Whereas if you allow for text, or you really emphasize text, it can broaden the participation of not just those certain students, but a larger group of students who maybe want to think through what they're saying before they share it with everyone. And text can work better for that. That was one of those things that is really great. Thank you, Sarah, for that, and Teresa as well. So we're about out of time. Yeah, it's 12:57. So I need to. I'm going to just kind of highlight very quickly the collaborative document, and just wanted to share with you just to show you the document that we had. And I see some great questions there. Awesome. But some of the things that I really saw from students' perspectives, just to share with you, this is all in that collaborative document. So feel free to go through it. But under that top 10, one of the things that I really was surprised by, and this is a study by Rutgers, 55% of Rutgers students, 55% reported internet connection at home was slowed by having too many people online at once. Over half of Rutgers students. 27, a quarter, were dependent on a computer device that was in poor working condition. 25% were not able to live stream reliably, and we see that just now with this session. And 24% were not able to download large files. So really one of the big lessons that students are helping us see is assume your students have poor connections. When you're building your stuff, think about, just think your students are going to have bad connections. So how can you help them? Shorter videos. So not just for pedagogical practicalities of 5 to 7 minutes, but try to aim for 5 minutes so it's easier for students to download or to stream that have a poor internet connection. Asynchronous learning opportunities. Letting students be flexible, and if they are getting cut off, don't demand that they have to be there and stay there if things are just not working out. Give them opportunities to make it up. So there's some really good stuff there about that. We talked a little bit about flexibility as equality and accessibility, but also thinking about really the rhythm and routine. So students' rhythm and routine have been totally disrupted. And look at this point and read through this, because there's some really helpful tips on how to kind of help students develop new routines in this online COVID environment. And I really liked a note on group projects, and especially large group projects, and maybe why you want to avoid them. I thought that was really interesting. So that, just to kind of leave that teaser out there, there's a lot of other content as well. But the last thing I want to show you is this is the study. It's right here. It's by Vicki Katz. I'm going to make this A is going to be, let's use green or something. We'll make it green so it stands out. But that's the one that has the study from the student's perspective at Rutgers. It's a really good article and really some insight. It is 1 o'clock, and not only does my daughter have piano lessons, but we have to go. So I'm going to sign us off. Thank you very much. Remember to come, please come next week. We are going to be talking about Oh, come on. There it is. We are going to be talking about the student's first 60 seconds in Canvas, helping strategies for course setup, design, and maintenance that help students really navigate to the course content and not worry about the course administration and minutia. So please come next week for that. Bring a friend. Thank you so much for your participation. Ed, Kathy, and I, or at least I for a little while before Canvas lessons, will be sticking around. Feel free to ask questions or put them into the Google Doc. We will get those set up and answered for you. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a
Thanks,
great week.
everybody.
Thanks for your participation.